Okay, I think we are live now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar in which we are going to talk about how to get scholarship from top B schools. And we have Alfie here today who is going to talk about her GMAT journey plus her application process and how she ended up getting a 65 lakh scholarship from Rice Jones. So before I get started, a quick hi, hello in the chat box and let me know if you can hear me clearly or not. Uh, in the meantime, I'll very quickly introduce myself. My name is Saqib, and I am the co-founder of GMAT and GREWiz. I've taken a GMAT myself, and I know a lot of people associate GMATWhiz with just GMAT, but we are also in the admission consulting space, and we have helped a lot of people, get into M70, 15, T20V schools. If you're interested in knowing more about consulting services, I'm just sharing a link very quickly. You can take a look after our webinar. Um, so let's get started. Uh, so Alfie, welcome to this webinar, and thank you for taking out the time to do this. I'll very quickly introduce you, and then you can, if you want to add anything else, please feel free to do that. Alfie worked with us with the GMAT. She has 700. She has been in the energy sector for quite a long time. I think close to 9 to 10 years in this. Uh, and she has done her master's, and she in fact has a bachelor's and master's dual degree, both. And as I mentioned, she is going to Rice Jones this fall, and she has got a scholarship of 80,000 from Rice. So once again, Alfie, congratulations, and thank you for taking out the time to do this webinar with us.
Thank you so much.
So I hope you're excited. And it was a very difficult period. The wait period, I think, must have been very difficult, right? How are
Yes,
you
yeah.
feeling now?
Now I feel like a lot peaceful. I'm a lot happy.
Yes, I can understand. I know that after giving the interview, it was pretty difficult for both of us, right? Waiting for the results. And by the way, she got waitlisted from Alfie got waitlisted from Macom's also. So there was a period of anxiety. We weren't sure where we will land up, but I think everything ended up well. Um, So, guys, let me just tell you how we are going to conduct the webinar. I thought, it's best to understand the whole the journey from GMAT till till your final interview and final selection process. So, the order that we are going to follow is pretty straightforward. We are going to just understand a little bit about Alfie's GMAT journey, and understand, how did she end up getting a 700, and if she has any advice for people who are still in the process of taking the GMAT. Then we'll go into the main, the discussion, and we won't spend a lot of time here, most probably 2 to 3 minutes. That's all. What I would like to focus in this webinar is talking about her journey on how did she decide, which schools to apply to, what was the whole application process, what kind of things that you need to keep in mind while going through the whole application process. What are the things that you need to, take care of in an interview, and we will talk a bit about what should you do, especially if you're somebody who if you're nervous, get nervous very quickly. How should you tackle it? I'm sure, I think Alfie and I, both of us, are pretty good. We have experience in that. We both get a little nervous in interviews, so I think we can both share a few things about it. And this again would be a very brief discussion of 2 to 3 minutes. I know a lot of people do get anxious about this, and I know it's a very long time. Most of you would be worried about it next year, but I'll just touch upon a bit and let you know what are the things that you definitely don't need to worry about. Okay. And by the way, if you have any questions, anything specific that you want to ask Alfie or me, please feel free to post your queries in the chat box, and I am going to take it up. Okay. So Alfie, I think I've done a lot of monologues. So let's start off with your GMAT journey. Please tell me, how did you start uh, preparing for the GMAT, and what was the whole? How did you go about getting the 700?
The thing is that initially I just did self preparation like for a period of 3 months with the books that we get
Mm-hmm.
like Manhattan and so on. So
Mm-hmm.
and when I gave the test like with my self preparation, I ended up with a score of 650. and
Okay.
I knew like 650 was not enough for me to reach like where I want to. So that's why I thought, but I didn't want to waste a lot of time because like I wanted a quick result. I didn't want to spend one more year preparing and so on, because
Hmm.
by the time I gave the test, it was September, so I didn't have
Correct.
much time. So then what I thought is that I was just browsing like in Google, like to see like which is the which course I should follow, like which can give me a
Used to.
better, a comprehensive like and a structured study materials and so on. So while I was going through it, I referred like GMAT Club, I referred like Quora, everything, and that's how I
Hmm.
ended up with GMATWhiz. So basically, what I was looking for was like an improvement in my score with the like with and that too at a very short period of time. So I wanted to have like
Correct.
everything like in a very structured pattern. That's what, and like to strengthen like wherever I'm lacking, I wanted to know like where I have to strengthen further. And so this all these things I wanted to do within that short period, like because I want to finish by October, November. I want to do the next test so that I can
Be done
apply
with the
for round
GMAT.
two. So that's what I was aiming for, and that's how I ended up with GMATWhiz. And to be honest, like I would say that GMATWhiz actually helped me a lot, like in getting my fundamentals, like in a very to get stronger in my fundamentals. That's the right thing to
Okay.
say. And even in the case of verbal, also like how to approach like critical reasoning problems, how to approach like reading comprehension problems, like all those things actually. Like sometimes, like the thing is that when we don't have a specific kind of like when we don't have any specific method, we just randomly approach it like
Solve
in
questions.
whatever way we
Correct.
want. Yeah. So,
Correct.
but that actually doesn't work when you have a time limitation. So that's where actually GMAT has helped me a lot, like uh, in structuring myself, like in seeing like identifying the patterns and to attack the questions in that way. So with that actually, and within like I think by the time I gave the next test, like November when I gave, like I got a score of 700.
Hmm.
So that's all
Okay. And the
thanks to
first
GMAT.
attempt was September, right?
Huh? Yeah, first
First,
attempt was
your
in
first time
September.
was
Yeah.
September. Okay, so I have, I think that's a very quick improvement in my opinion. And guys, just to give you an understanding, those of you especially, I know they're starting a GMAT journey. Um, Going from 600 to 650 or 550 to 600 is still easy. The moment you have to cross that, you want to touch that 700 mark. It seems like a 50-point improvement might not be a lot, but it does become really difficult, from going from 650 to 700. Then again, the second journey from 7 to 750, somebody's targeting that. That's a little steep, and sometimes it's not that easy to achieve that in a very short time. So kudos to you. I think you ended up preparing very quickly. Just one question here, I think, because see, a lot of people I know do like to prepare, do a self prep. Um, if you have to give them any advice, let's say if somebody wants to do a self prep, should they do it? If yes, what do you think? How should they go about doing it? And what do you think? If they want to really, if they're on a tight deadline, how do you think a course helps them? I know you talked about structure, but is there anything else that you think helps? Did in your case, did mentorship help you? Um, the and what else do you think is needed if somebody wants to use a course?
The main problem, like what I faced when I was like preparing by myself, was like I didn't know like where I was lacking. Like the thing is that like you will be practicing a lot and you will be thinking, okay, that should be sufficient. Like you just don't know like whether you have reached that mark or not. So this
Mhm.
was the main issue that I faced actually. And the main difference I felt with GMAT this was that like that mentorship, the kind of mentorship that they were offering, like they will correctly pinpoint like where you were lacking. Like in the case of for example, in the case of quantitative, like there will be like some particular topic, like you may be good in logarithms, you may be good in other things, but there will be exactly one point maybe where you are lacking. And GMAT was
Mm.
like exactly identifies where you lack and tells you like you have to practice there. It suggests like all the kind of practice problems that you can do to improve yourself, like improve your fundamentals. So that is what I felt like that helped me a lot in getting a better score.
Correct. So I do agree with this point. And guys, just keep in mind that a lot of people believe that if you're taking the GMAT, they can keep on practicing, and then through practice they can improve. Yeah, it might work in some cases. There's always an 80-20 rule, right? So it might work in 20% of the cases. But in most of the time, what I've noticed is, in my experience and after talking to a number of students, I've realized that structure helps you understand whether you're improving or not. You can keep on practicing questions, right? But you might never know whether you're improving or not, and even if you're not, where you should focus on. So there's no harm in doing a self prep, but keep in mind that you need to have some kind of a checkpoint or a way to figure out where are you improving, where are you not. And really, if you really want to improve quickly, if you're somebody who's hit a plateau, like in Alfie's case, she was at a 650 and she wanted to go to 700. If you want to improve quickly, and if you want to really understand where you need to work on, I would definitely recommend looking at GMATWhiz or any course that can help you understand your strengths and weaknesses, so that you can improve quickly and you don't spend all your time in GMAT and realize, hey, the R1, R2, both the deadlines are over. So yeah, the key takeaway is make sure that your prep is structured, and ideally the best way is to obviously use a particular course and go ahead with it. I'll quickly share, just in case if you're still preparing for GMAT, if some of you are preparing for GMAT and want to look at GMAT with courses and how they can help you uh, improve quickly. I'm just sharing the GMATWhiz link, and you should be able to see the same on your screen also. And just in case if you want to talk to us, and then figure out how we can help you out, whether you can improve in 2 months or not, or would you need more, how should you go about preparing it. I'm also sharing the calendar link. Do book a call with us, and let's get on a call and discuss how we can help you ace the GMAT. Okay. So with this, I think I feel let's move on to the main part, which I said. So you got a 700, right? And post that, how did you go about doing the selection of schools? So just to give you background, those of you here, Alfie worked with us on the application, which is obvious, I know. But I want to understand what was your take before you started working with us, and
Uh,
should you do selection of school?
Before like I started, I contacted GMAT. Like my idea was like, I think that is what everybody has. Like you go for like you see your score and see which all schools will come under that particular range. Like for
Correct.
which schools the average is like at 700. So you apply that and you don't have to think anything else. Like somehow prepare for it and go for it. So this is
So,
what even I was thinking. Like I was also like of the opinion, okay, I should find the schools which is having an average of 700, apply to them, and make sure I somehow get through. So, but the thing is that like after discussing with actually Sakib was my mentor here. So
yeah.
after discussing with Sakib, I knew like that approach won't work. To be honest, like. It may work, but the thing is that it may not have a successful result every time, because basically the schools what they see is like whether they can fit us in. So and if they find that okay, if our background and whatever our profile is having, if it's not matching with what the school is like focusing on, then
Hmm.
it doesn't matter if we are applying for a average, like in my case like a 700 average school. So the thing is
700
that
is a good
first
score,
thing
by
what
the way. And any T30 school is a good B school. Just to make sure that it's clear to everyone, what Alfie is basically trying to say is that school look for fit. Everything should be aligned, right? So in fact, I talked to a few clients 2 weeks back, and in fact, what you're talking about is most of these students follow the same pattern. They look at the GMAT score, and then based on that, they look at the school's GMAT score, and then they try to select a school, which again is incorrect. I've talked about this also, guys, a lot in detail. I'll share a YouTube playlist. You can go and look at it. But Alfie, what changed, and what do you think is the right way to do it? And let's generalize it a bit, and then we can talk a bit about you. What do you think should be
okay.
the right school selection process?
I think it is. We should see like our background, and we should see like how the school placements and what is the school focusing on, like and the location. So these three things actually plays a major role, like when we decide the school. For example, in my case, I come from energy background, and so like there is no point for me in applying in schools where the placements for students coming from that background is not much. So when I was choosing schools, I was looking for schools which actually has like kind of focus and energy, and which actually has a better placement options, like better placement opportunities for students who come from energy background. So
Energy.
this was one thing that I like we discussed actually, me and like I discussed with Sakib, and like that's how like we finalize the schools. So in my case, actually, Rice, Mecoms, all those schools actually came into picture like based on my background.
Correct. True. So guys, as I said, I've mentioned this a number of times in the last 2 to 3 weeks when we were doing the other webinars. The first thing, obviously, that you need to keep in mind is your profile, right? And I would add here your goals also. I think these two things are important. You might belong to a particular background, but you might want to shift to a different background. So that's also possible. So you look at your background, your current, whether what are you doing? Like in Alfie's case, she was in the energy sector, and her goal was aligned towards being in the energy sector only, right? There are people I know who are in also different backgrounds and they want to switch also. That's totally okay. But it should be a mix of both. Where are you now and where do you want to go? Let's put it this way. And location does in fact matter a lot. Do look at webinars which talk about where should you go to, whether you should go to US, Europe. In US also, where should you target based on your on your preference, the kind of goals that you have. And just to drive through this point, while you were discussing, I was discussing the Alfie, the kind of schools that we need to look at. I'll just show you a data point which will help you understand why is it important you look at the location and the recruitment reports and everything. Look at these two placement reports. Okay, I'll give you 10 seconds, 15 seconds to look at it. I'll even highlight a few things so that it's easy to kind of understand what exactly I might be focusing on. So see, this is the report of a T15B school. Okay, I don't want to name it because see, all the T15B schools are pretty good, right? And this is the placement data point from Rice, okay, Rice Jones. Now notice if somebody wants to go in the energy sector, if you just decide based on ranking, you say, hey, I want to go to a T15B school or a top 10B school and I want to be in energy, let me just go, then you might not be able to get your dream role or the other kind of industry that you want to be in because it doesn't have that kind of a placement also. In fact, to be very honest, most of the places, if you want to go into energy sector, they have a placement of just 1 or 2% in most of the T15, T20B schools. So let's just say if your target is energy, it does make sense to go to a place where the placement is slightly on the higher end, especially if you have a background in it. I know you might say 9% is not that much, but to be very honest, it is. Considering 1% versus 9%, I think that this does play a role. And in case of Alfie, we were looking at a mix of both energy consulting. So there was quite a bit of an overlap between these two. Which I think was something which makes sense. So in your cases, those of you out here, don't just choose schools based on ranking. Okay, obviously you can keep them as a priority, but do look at all the factors. Like Rice is in Texas, we apply to Rice, we apply to Mecoms. All of these are in Texas, where getting into energy sector is pretty easy. And so choosing locations, a school location also makes a lot of sense because it becomes very easy for you to transition. Obviously you look at pay and other factor also, but I think the first step is to figure out whether you can get placed or not. Then obviously I think it makes sense to look at the rest of the factors. Any questions, guys? Again, feel free to ask. So I hope it is clear. As Alfie mentioned, while choosing your school, make sure that you keep your background, you give your placement, location. Obviously, you should look at culture also. I think. What do you think, Alfie? Did you get the chance? Did you interact with people from Rice, Mecoms? Did that help you understand the culture also of these schools?
Yes, actually, I had the opportunity to interact with people, and besides, the best thing was like Rise, like which is located Houston. Houston is like a kind of the number one city in terms of diversity. So, and Rise has like a pretty good Indian population as well. So, what I felt is that like it kind of offers you a very comfortable atmosphere. Like it's not like you don't feel like a stranger or an alien there. You feel like you will feel like you're fitting in. So that's the thing. And and the people were really very welcoming, like even in the case of like the kind of webinars they offered, and all those things, like it was like I would say that the kind of how I'd say the kind of approach they were having towards the students were like really positive. So that itself shows like you want to be part of that
part of
group.
a community. Yeah. So I think, guys, it's very important also. I have a lot of people don't focus on this because they feel, just get an admission. Who cares about culture? But I think it's a very important thing, especially if, let's say if you have 2 to 3 admissions, admits, how do you take a call? Where do you want to go? In those cases, culture does play a lot of role. And I would definitely recommend talking to a lot of current students, those who have graduated, to get a sense of, the kind of school, the one that you're targeting, how good is it? And if there's anything specific that you want to ask, definitely do that. I know people who even take the weather into account, right? They don't want to go to cold places, hot places, things like that also. Again, I think personally that should be a second priority, but yeah, if that's important for you, take that also in account. Uh, guys, I would also want to talk about, see, understand when you're applying to a school where the average is close to 700, 710, 720, I think the essay plays a very important role. And what I've seen is a lot of people, just write essays. Um, I shouldn't say for the sake of it, but not with a lot of clarity, like in terms of long-term goal, short-term goal, and all those stuff. So I would want to understand, Alfie, how did you go about, your, let's say, for example, we decided that we want to apply to Rice. Okay, let's take that, Rice Jones. What was the process that you followed, and and just, what's your take on it? Whether the process is effective, what should people do when they are writing their applications?
So the best, like the first thing is that like we should have an idea like what should be the flow. Like it's like we are telling them our story. So and that story is supposed to be continuous. Like it shouldn't be like okay, like you are answering for one question, and for that particular question you maintain one set of story, and when it comes to the next text, say like you completely contradict it and go for a second set of story. It shouldn't be like that. Like there should be a flow. Like that flow is the thing that matters. Like your story should appear as if like your short-term goals, your long-term goals, and whatever you are like going to present yourself as, all these things actually play a role,
Yes.
and they should be like there should be a flow. That's what they're looking for. So like in my case actually, like what we did is that like there will be a lot of incidents that we can actually use to write our essay, like to make it like impressive. But the thing is that to find the right example, or to find the um, right story to
Mm.
develop on, that is something that I actually got a lot of help from Sakib. So and also like to from linking my long term and short term goals, in all these things actually, I think we had undergone like a lot of revisions, but all those revisions actually helped me in making a very strong story, to build like a right story, like from what I was like my past, to what I want to be my short term goals, and what I'm seeing myself in the long.
Correct. Okay. I think, yeah, what you're saying, I kind of agree with that. And the way I would put it, guys, is I'll just add a little bit to what Alfie said. Is, see, what you need to keep in mind, guys, is that when you're building the story, as Alfie mentioned, that you need to ensure that all of these stories is it's coherent, right? Yeah, and it is all linked properly. It should not happen, like, just to give a very extreme example, you might end up saying that in my short term goal is, say, for example, to work in in some kind of an LDP role or something like that. My long-term goal is to work in consulting, and there's no clue why you want to do it. I want to be a partner in consulting, or you say you want to be in consulting, but you don't know why do you want to be in consulting. Okay, and there's no alignment in the short-term, long-term goal. And I've seen cases like that, or people simply write in the short term, I just want to learn and grow. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but you do need a lot of clarity on your short term goal, definitely. And when you're writing a long term goal, there should be a good alignment, a logical flow from the short term to long term. One thing which I think, which I would also add, is you can use a lot of personal instances. So the one thing which I think, Alfie, I asked you to do was, if you remember, was to write all the instances first, right? um,
Yes.
I know it's a very difficult task, right? To write all the leadership stories, to all write the team building stories, to write your personal story. So, guys, I would recommend that you do that first. Try to think of all the different instances. If you're working, on your own. If you're working with, obviously, with us, we'll guide you completely end to end. But that's the first thing that you should definitely do. And then from there, you try and figure out, what instances would justify your goals and your motivation behind doing an MBA. Just to give an example, and also leverage your strength. What I mean by that, and again, I'm going to use Rice essays to talk about it. So these were the two main questions that they asked. One question was pretty straightforward, asking about short-term and long-term goals. So when you were writing this, a theme was pretty clear. Okay, we want to we want to talk about energy sector, but how do we align that? What kind of story do you want to present? What's Alfie's long-term inspiration? uh, what exactly do you want to do in the long-term goal? So did you want to talk about it, Alfie, a little bit? What exactly did you want to do in your short-term and long-term?
Yeah, actually, in my case, in my short term, like I want to start as a journalist and learn about consulting, get the experience, work with people from diverse backgrounds, and later use that experience so that I can specialize later in energy sector as a consultant who is focused in energy sector. So, like in my short term goals, like I want to focus, develop myself, develop my skill set needed for to be a specialist, and then later like work on to be a specialist in energy sector.
And sector. So see, guys, so that's what I'm saying, that you should have a logical. I hope you, through Alfie's answer, you understand, right? There needs to be a good logical flow between your short-term, long-term goal, and good alignment between them. If there isn't, then if you just mention that you want to be in consulting but not in energy, which is totally fine, because you want to be a generalist first. You want to gain knowledge, and then you want to specialize. And in specialize, if instead of mentioning energy, if you mention something else and you don't have any reason for it, then obviously that's a cause for state rejection. So essays do play a very important role to make sure that how you write it. Uh, the one thing which I was mentioning was, leveraging your strength. This was a very interesting question which Raijun asks. They give you two prompts. One is what movie, book, song has most influenced your life and the way you view the world and why. And the other is a picture is a thousand words. Choose a picture from your life and that you value and tell us a story about it. And we had the option of creating a video or writing the answers. Now, some people, it varies from person to person, right? Some people like to create short videos. They're very good. Don't get nervous. Let me put it this way. It's easy for them. Some people write well. Like in your case, Alfie, what I realized when I was working with her through all the essays, I realized she writes really well. So, Alfie, what was your experience writing this answer? Because I think that this was one of our best answers out of all the one that we have done, right? Pretty
Yeah,
personal to you
actually,
also.
like we actually went for the prompt one because like there was this book that influenced my life and I was really excited to write about that book. So for me it was like it was not like writing an essay for a school application. It was more like writing a book like which actually influenced me. So I think this in my case, like can I tell the example like the book I
Yeah, yeah,
used?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, actually, I used there was this book, The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. So this was the book that had influenced me a lot. Like it actually had changed like my viewpoints on a lot of things. So while I was writing this essay, like it was like I didn't feel any burden or anything. It was like expressing like just like what happened to me, like how that book had really influenced me. So that's what. And when I wrote the essay and gave, and I think like. I think Sakib actually corrected like where all like I was lacking, and I think we could do a good job there.
Correct. So I think, see, the main core takeaway, guys, I want you to take from here is that uh, take things, from, as mentioned, from your personal stories, and try to be as genuine as possible while writing the answer. Don't think about, hey, this is a book that a lot of people might write, so I don't want to use. That's not a problem. If you're writing a book which a lot of people might use it, how does that book or song or a movie, if you're using prompt one, uh, can actually tell a true story about yourself? It's very important, and it's very important to create structures also, guys. So just want to show how we create structure for a particular answer. What should we write? How should we talk about the book? What are the points that left an impression? What actually caused a change in the thought process and in Alfie's thought process. So we have to create a very strong structure and then write the answer, because a lot of time the content might be good, but if people don't structure it really well, and it's like having all the content but then you're mixing matching it and we don't know how to read it. So we help you create these structures also, and as Alfie mentioned, we do give feedbacks, right? It's not always the first iteration is something that we look at it and then we finalize it. We do take a lot of time to and I try to be as critical as possible. And if it requires two iterations, three iterations, how many revisions if it's required, we go through that to ensure that the best version comes out of this. Um, so so yeah. So make sure that when you're writing these answers, because these essays also do play a role in talking a lot about these essays help the B schools understand what kind of a person you are. So choosing the right story, right, like we could have used a movie and song also, right? But then, in fact, we talked about using Harry Potter also, I think. But um, uh, just going more personal and something that really creates an impact makes a lot of sense. Also, in her case, writing, as I mentioned, was her strength. So we leveraged that because we wanted to create an impact. If you're somebody who feels you can create a good video, you should do that. But I would definitely recommend getting inputs on this, so that at least. Because if this doesn't go well, obviously you won't get the chance to get an interview, right? So make sure that these are written the best possible way. Now, I think the most important part, uh, next important part is the interview process. So I know, Alfie, as and I've been mentioned at the start, you do get a little nervous, right? Uh, do
Yes.
we really need to worry about these interviews a lot? If yes, why? If no, why? And what do you think and we can do to lessen the anxiety or nervousness? And what's the best way to go about preparing for the interview?
I would say that interviews, like these interviews, are not something that has to be taken lightly, because this is one of the main things they use to see how you will be fitting, like how you will fit in the school. So
Correct.
it's not something that you can just okay, we'll just give it, like we will speak whatever we want. They
You
will
want
just
to?
see the score and all those things, and it's nothing like that. Interview plays a very crucial role. So and mostly they will be asking you behavioral questions. Like it is not like the questions like to test your subject knowledge, or like what idea you are having about business administration in general and so on.
Which
There
happens
is
a lot of
nothing like
Indian
that.
interviews.
It is very friendly interviews, and they what they are looking for is like to understand like what who we are. Basically that's the thing, like who we are, like what are our skills, what are our plus points, what are our negatives. Like it kind of gives them an understanding of like the person we are. That's the thing. So thing is that like for people like me who actually get nervous, I would say that like the nervousness actually affects like in creating a good impression. So the best thing you can do is like prepare a lot. Like there are a lot of the questions are like kind of the behavioral questions are like kind of similar, and like it's always about give an example for some time where you have shown your leadership skills or some
Correct.
it will be like that. And the
Mm.
it will be like a repetitive, like give an introduction of yourself and all those things. So the main thing is that practice a lot so that you gain that confidence, and so that you don't feel that you don't at that particular moment you don't feel nervous, you don't go blank or anything. So if you're very prepared, like if you are like, then you get that confidence that you know you can do well.
Do
So
it.
this is something that like personally, like I can say, like in my case, like I was like very nervous, like on how to go about with this interview, because it's not like they're not testing any subject knowledge. It's
Nice subject
wholly
matter.
about like how we are telling about our experience, how we are telling about our strengths, weakness. And the thing is that like, and you have to make it in such a presentable way that you cannot bore them like with like being so dull and all those things. So in my case, I would say that I practiced, and actually Saki also helped me like in getting in doing some mocks, so that I will have that like I will know like which where I have to control my tone, where I have to which stories I should use and so on. So I would say that that helped me a lot in
Uh,
giving a good
like,
interview.
so I think it's that's the right thing which you mentioned, that we should not take it lightly. In any case, we should not. But one point which I'll add here is that most of these interviews, they make you feel at ease.
Yes.
Even if you're nervous in the starting, I think I'm sure after talking for 3 to 4 minutes, you must have realized, hey, this person is friendly. So
Yeah,
they
yeah,
are
that's
they
the thing. Hmm.
so they just want to know you guys. So the most important advice I think which Alfie mentioned is it's like prepare for it really really well, and understand. I mentioned, right, these all these goals that you're talking about, all these examples that you're using, if they're not coherent, then in the interview process, they will understand that, because they try to understand you as a person, nothing else. How are your goals aligned with your life? Um, how are you as a person? Are you a leader, a team player? Are you somebody who's ambitious or not? All these kind of your nature is something that they're trying to understand, because as I said, the fit, they just want to see whether you would be the right fit out here or not. So just to summarize this, make sure that you look at all the most of the behavioral questions. Look at your goals, questions related to your goals, and most importantly, look at how would you be a right fit for that particular school. I'm not just talking in terms of Rice Jones. In general, also most of these schools want to understand why do you really want to come to that school. So as long as you prepare for these three things, I think you're sorted. It should not be an issue. And usually the way I prefer is, and I think I mentioned to Alfie also, that you can record yourself, right? Either stand in front of the
Yes.
mirror and see how you're doing. I usually like
Mm.
recording. I usually record it on a phone, and then I listen to what I've said, and then try and criticize it or figure out how to make it better. So that definitely something can help you a lot, guys. Um, Anything special which you want to talk about, Rice or Mecoms, any other experiences? Because as I remember, Mecoms was something which was completely online, right? You didn't have to talk to anybody. How was that
Yeah.
experience, just recording in front of the camera?
Yeah, that was like I would say that it's like kind of a monologue kind of thing, because like you don't have somebody else, like you cannot see the other person's reaction because there is no other person. You're
Mm,
talking to yourself, and
mm,
the questions will come, so you have to, and they will give you a specified time limit, like, and within that you can give the answers. So
mm.
though there is a lot of they will give you a lot of practice sessions, you can practice n number of times,
Right.
there is no limit in that. And you can gain the confidence, like you can adjust like the surroundings, the lightings, you can keep in whatever way you want, and then you can be comfortable. Actually, that offers you the kind of comfort, that is one
Comfort.
thing there. So like, and then you can start practicing. So the only thing is that the questions may not be what you will be practicing, like it will be different, but you will have an idea, like you will kind of stage fright kind of thing won't be there because you have practiced enough.
Okay.
The only thing
Mm,
is that your thoughts needs to be coherent, like at that particular point, like you should be able to consistently give an answer, like without breaking the flow, and like, and make it convincing. That's the thing.
convincing, yeah. Mhm. I think you have to be very precise also, because you get a very specific time limit. I think that's the
Yes.
major difference apart from it being a monologue. So,
Mhm.
you have to kind of, usually I would say, like, I kind of imagine I'm talking to somebody. That's the all that I can do. But most of the time, my time, you're looking at the timer.
A
So,
timer, yeah.
crispness and the answers are pretty important, guys. If you really want to do ace your interview process, especially a lot of schools have started doing this pre-recorded interview kind of stuff. Make sure that and the questions would be same. Okay, so just focus on your behavioral questions, goal questions, and school questions, and then I'm pretty sure you would be sorted. It's not going to be an issue. um, I'll very briefly touch upon, as I said, about the visa process. I know not that important, but at least not now. But how was your experience? I know a lot of people were worried about F1 visas. In your case, did you face any issues, or was it like a smooth process?
Like for visa slot booking, actually, I took the help of an agent, so that actually they will help you in getting a slot at an earlier days, like compared to like when we go, like personally, like when we try to book on our own. Actually, it's not possible for us to get convenient slots. So in my case, actually, I used the help of an agent. And visa interviews, I would say, like they're not that difficult. Like as long as we are giving them the confident answer and our like answers to their questions, like why do we want to do an MBA
And
now,
you're pretty
or
anxious in this case, also, I know.
yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
That was there. Like I was like worried, like what answer, like it shouldn't appear like it's not convincing enough for them. Then it all falls through. Like, so I
Fraud,
didn't
yeah.
want to be. I wanted to be like confident, and especially when it comes to funding and all those things. Like you should
Mhm,
have enough like documents to support you. Basic
mhm.
thing that what I felt, it was like it's the confidence, like how
Yeah.
confidently you are giving the answers. So
Mm.
if you can convince them with your confidence, then like visa interviews are not a tough thing.
Correct. So, just, as I said, I just want to add briefly here that next year, if you start going through this process, you might get a little nervous. Though
Mhm.
it's not really necessary to use an agent. You can, if you want, if you're looking for a slot very quickly. I mean, Alfie is obviously the admit came a little late, so we wanted to wrap things up very quickly. So we decided to use an agent. Otherwise, slots do open up a lot during mid June. June end, July first week in pockets. So don't really worry about it unless until you're like 3 weeks from your before joining and you don't have a slot, then maybe you can use it. And obviously in this case also, if your visa interviews and all, confidence does matter. Obviously you need to have all the documentation. When we'll do a separate session on visa, so don't worry about it. But yeah, just letting you know that this is a process that's pretty easy to sort out, should not be a problem. Alfie, what I would want, if you can, I think that is all I wanted to talk about. But what do you think, helped you? I know it's a black box. Getting a scholarship is totally something which no one knows who will get. But what do you think, if you have to look at your whole journey, what really impacted, or what could have created an impact for them to give you that scholarship of 65 lakhs 80,000?
I would say one thing will be my profile, the background, what I'm having, and the other thing will be the essays. So these two things might have played a major role. This is what I feel, because as you told, like it's not something that we know like how they give, but I think the main thing that plays a major role is the background and the essays.
Okay, okay. So, yeah, I do agree. I would say they do look at your essays. And interviews does also play a role,
Yes,
in my
yes.
opinion. And see the background. So the guys also here, if you're really looking for a scholarship, as I said, when you're choosing schools, if you choose schools which are very aligned to your goals, then these schools would want you. And I know I said that it's a black box, but there are certain indicators which does, we can take a calculated guess and tell you whether you could get a scholarship or not. And these factors do matter. Like in Alfie's case, as I mentioned aptly that energy sector, energy focus, location, everything was fitting in really really well. And if they realize ki, okay, this person has a very good clarity on the goal, and they can really and one more thing is how much value you can add also, by the way. It's not only about whether they can place you. Alfie's experience, as I mentioned, that she has been in the energy sector for like close to 9 to 10 years now. So that experience that she would be bringing into the in the classrooms, in the discussions, is something that they would appreciate. So look at your profile, guys. If you're applying, go beyond ranking also, right? Look at how could you be a good fit in that school. In fact, just to give another example, Chinmay also had a slightly lower GMAT score. She had close to 690, and in her case, also she ended up with a scholarship because the schools that she applied to had a very very good alignment. I'm just showing you a brief, list of our success stories, and I just wanted to highlight Chinmay's story here. If so, in her case, why does even if you have low GMAT score, you should not really worry about it. Okay, don't just think that if I have a low GMAT score, I will not be able to get into a particular school, or if my average score is close to the B school score, I might not have a good chance. GMAT does play a decent amount of role. Obviously, if the average is 700 and then you apply at a 500, it would be difficult. But if you're close to that average score, plus minus 20, 30 points, then after that, if you're still interested in going to a particular school, try and figure out what kind of alignment and fit you have with that school. Don't just look at the rankings, okay? Unless and until you end up with a 780 and the only school that you want to look at is SSW, that's a different thing altogether. But in general, I know about 80% of the people don't go beyond GMAT score. So I would highly recommend it. Please go beyond that. And if you want a help in selecting the B school in your applications, I did share our calendar link, and our GMATWhiz consultation page also. I'm just showing it again on the screen. I hope you can see it. Go there, look at our, what kind of services do we offer. Start early. I think in one thing which we didn't mention, Alfie, like in your case, we had a lot of time, right? We started
Mhm.
discussion. So Alfie applied in round two, by the way. So we started the discussion since November only. So we had November, we had full December, then we had around 10, 12 days in January also. So starting early can definitely be something that because it gives you time to think, right? We had a lot of time to discuss, go back and forth, right? That does help. If you rush, if you apply, in the last 5, 7 days, 10 days, then it might be difficult. So yeah, any other points, Alfie, would you like to add? I think I've summarized whatever I wanted to, but any advice to people, any other advice you want to give people who want to apply, you are preparing for GMAT? Any final
Uh,
thoughts?
uh, like nothing. Like the other thing is like the recommender, choosing a recommender for
Yeah,
recommendation
okay.
purpose.
Correct. So we did talk a lot about that, but yeah, thanks for reminding me. Also, keep in mind, guys, one more factor which it does play a role apart from your application is, apart from essays, is finding somebody who who can talk, I won't say good things about you, but who can evaluate you really well. And the way I put it, who can be a cheerleader, right? As simple as that. They would talk good things about you as well as tell you where are the areas that you can improve. People who have worked with you very closely. Don't make the mistake, which is a very common mistake which people make, is and I think I discussed that with Alfie also, that I don't want people, if there's somebody who has a very good designation in your company and who has worked with you directly, then well and good. But don't just choose a recommender just because that person has a CXO tag or something like that, and they don't know anything about you or very little about you. So the answer that they write would be pretty superficial. So that also I think plays a very important. And thank you, Alfie, for bringing that up. It completely slipped my mind. But that is also an important part that plays a role. So all in all, guys, that's it from my end. I'm just summarizing here. If you're looking to get a good scholarship, if that's your goal also, then make sure you choose the school in the right manner. And the way you choose it is to go beyond just the GMAT. And trying to find out the fit. If you need any help, support, we do provide profile evaluations also. I'm sharing that Calendly link with you too. If you want, you can uh, book a call with me, and I'll be more than happy to discuss and let you know what would be the right fit for you. Okay. I think, Alfie, that's it. So, guys, if you have any questions, you have the email ID on the screen. Please feel free to write to us, and we'll be more than happy to answer. And once again, Alfie, thank you for taking out the time for this webinar. Okay.
It's my pleasure.
All the best for your new journey. Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
guys, have a great day. Bye.